Okay, hi everyone. Lord. Okay, this is super complex, but I'm exhausted, and virtually the only way I can actually get myself to study is by teaching what I'm supposed to be already knowing and learning it as I go along. Guys, just a quick reminder, the reason why the sound is so bad is because I haven't got enough subscribers. So what I recommend, please, is subscribe. And if you don't want to see notifications, if you don't want to know about my channel, just switch off notifications and switch on subscribe so that massive corporations can pay for me to have a decent microphone at last. Okay? So I'm going to run through chapter 1 all over again because I'm still deeply confused about what they actually want. We can probably busk the tests, but you know, this is gold. We're paying for it. Let's learn the subject well, my assignment is due in 2 days' time, and I have no brain. So I'm just doing the PowerPoints because that's all I have time for. And I'm running through this with you so that I can kind of focus and hopefully by speaking it out, put it into my head. So if this helps you, great. But it's certainly helping me. So good luck to all of us. All right, let's go. All right, now, their first question on their slideshow for chapter 1 is how is cognitive psych relevant? Okay, practical applications, huge. Inner workings, the answer is yes. The cognitive revolution, when I saw this question, I first thought it's brain science. Now we know what is happening in the brain, and I'm still inclined to stick to that because what they want from the writer Goldberg is that it's an intellectual shift from the behaviorist seeing people as, and animals as black boxes to interdisciplinary and breaking it down into what's happening in that box and actually unpacking it, which is, I wouldn't call it quite a revolution, but anyway, each to their own. That's what they'll be wanting, I think. Okay, so let's see. Right, definition. It's concerned with a scientific study of the mind. Cognition means mental processes, perception, attention, memory. Okay? A complexity of cognition. So perception, attention, memory, distinguishing items in a category, visualizing. And I think you could add to that imagining sound or music or senses, visualizing, creating an internal construct of what is outside. Language, problem solving, reasoning, and decision making. Okay, all of these include hidden processes of which we may not be aware. And that's where it gets really interesting, is when you find those. And it's interesting because it's counterintuitive a lot of the time, meaning it's not what we expect. Okay, so the mind creates and accesses memories, recalls them from the mind, from the brain, solves problems, considers possibilities, makes decisions. We have to have a good working brain and mind for surviving and functioning. It's the symbol of creativity, intelligence, and creates representations of the world so we can act in it. Okay, very nice. Early work in cognitive psychology, Donders, 1968, looked at reaction times. Okay, he measured the interval between the presentation of a stimulus and the person's response to it. Okay, so that's what we covered in the other video. Good. Okay, modern version. How quickly do you press the button, depending on whether the light's on the left or right? Oh, this is such a nice, simple explanation. Thank you, God. Okay. All right. Okay, a lot more detail. We don't need that. Okay, decision reaction time. Bum, 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 explaining it all. Moving on to Wundt, structuralism and sensation. Scientific psychology lab. 1879. That's a long time ago. He looked at structuralism of how basic elements of experience called sensations are combined to create the experience. So for example, if, okay, wait, I've got the ideal tool. Okay. So for example, if you're looking at this object, part of your brain is been looking for roundness. So yes, check, 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 right? Part of your brain is going to be looking for color, all right? Part of your brain is going to be looking for shininess as opposed to a rough texture, okay? Or non-shininess, whatever. Solidity, well, I don't know. We have to look at the textbook for what the brain picks up, okay? But that's structuralism. It's going to go, okay, we've got little things that say shiny, 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 round, 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 red, green, blue, all right? Okay, he used the analytic introspection method, which is interesting because later on they start unpacking it within the actual brain function. Okay, so you're looking at experiences and thought processes in reaction to stimuli. That's very interesting, an analytical introspection method for that. Okay, then we've got Ebbinghaus, memory and forgetting. So this is used by educators around the world. Nonsense syllables, you know, how many times you have to remember it before it's stuck in long-term memory. And you see a graph going, you know, the more times, and there's a frequency issue, particular frequencies are better. So he found that short break intervals meant that fewer repetitions were necessary to relearn, okay? And learning many different lifts at many different retention intervals. So you want to mix it up, which is what language learning is all based on, is these principles, much to our students' frustration. All right, memory and forgetting. Dum, 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 dum. Okay, so it's shorter intervals and mix it up. Okay, so learn it differently and at almost random, unpredictable intervals. So represent the same material in many different ways. Okay, let's look at this one. Savings curve. Ebbinghaus savings curve. When you first learned it, it took 19 minutes. Okay. Then you can learn it again after an hour, 7 hours, 1 day, 2 days, and 31 days. Percentage saving. Uh-huh. Okay. Oopsie. Hang on. Go back. Sorry, guys. Oh, no. Now we're screwed. One moment. I'll edit this out. Ah, found it. Savings curve. Showing savings as a function of retention intervals. Okay. No, this is so confusing. Here we go. Oh, God. Okay, percentage saving, measure of the amount remembered. The amount remembered, not the time taken to put it into your head, the amount remembered. So here, this y-axis, the vertical axis, the y-axis, shows you that at first you remember, huh? This is terrible. It shows you how much you retain when you first learn it compared to how much you retain later on in time. And you'll find that in the first hour, you retain about 60%. In 2 days' time, you're retaining about 30%. And in a month's time, you're retaining between 20 and 30%. So it's a curve, okay? It's a exponential curve if you're into math. Function of retention interval. Okay, now we move to James. Okay, William James, Principles of Psychology. He was looking at his own mind, not experiments. So these are the interesting Victorian guys that had science as a leisure hobby. They're very entertaining. Okay, so he looked at cognition, thinking, consciousness, attention, memory, perception. He looked at it all right? He noticed two problems with analytical introspection, extremely variable results per person, and invisible processes. What the? So he proposed behaviorism. He said, okay, well, this doesn't work. Let's eliminate the mind and just look at observable behavior. So William James, Watson, not James, Watson. Watson said, James, you don't know what you're doing. William James, you don't know what you're doing, because William James was all about introspection. We're just getting soup out of this. It's not making any sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it all out. Forget about the mind. Just look at what we can see, okay? Directly observable behavior. That's Watson. So, okay, we're getting there. Okay, so he did little Albert. Poor little Albert got scared when he saw a rat after a loud noise was associated with a rat. And this is a tiny baby. And then he looked at, okay, well, every time that little Albert now sees a rat, he's now scared. So he's had a conditioned, what's it called again? Look at it now. So you can look at behavior without any attention of the mind. You can just treat it as a black box. Pairing one stimulus with another affects behavior. So classical conditioning. Okay, this is the classical conditioning method. Pairing a neutral event with an event that naturally produces a response. After many pairings, the neutral event now also produces the outcome. And this is inspired by Pavlov. You know, they're charming, charming, charming people. Great explanation. Okay. Classical conditioning. Dog torture, bell, food, salivation. Okay, Skinner. Skinner's much nicer. He was kinder to his pigeons. Okay. Operant conditioning and behavior. He was looking at determining the relationship between stimulus and response. So operant conditioning is when you shape behavior by rewards and punishment. Rewarded behavior is more likely to be repeated, punished behavior less likely. And this dominated psychology from the 1940s to the 1960s. And then mercifully came to an end. I mean, I know it's valuable. We use it all the time, but I have a thing against it. Okay, the rise of behaviorism. 1868, Donda's reaction time, Wundt, Ebbinghaus. Okay, these are not behaviorists, by the way. Okay, and James. So behaviorism really kicks in with Watson, and then we get Skinner. He's pretty on the ball. 1938. Hi. Okay, right. The reemergence of the mind in psychology. This is the cognitive revolution. Tolman trained rats who were clever. Okay, and he said, no, man, these rats have a cognitive map. They know what they're doing. Okay, they're smart. Behavior is not adequate to explain this. It can't be done. You have to acknowledge that this poor animal actually has a brain. Okay. The decline of behaviorism. Then there's the problem of language acquisition. So Skinner said verbal behavior, children learn language through operant conditioning. They imitate speech they hear and correct speech is rewarded. Well, this may be true for fine-tuning, not swearing, for example, and asking for things with a please and a thank you in your culture. Okay. because that you can see parents practicing their operant conditioning on a daily basis. Okay. But Chomsky said in 1959, said, no, no, no. Children do not only learn language through imitation and reinforcement. They say things they have never heard and can't be imitated. They are creative. They make mistakes. Okay. And they make interesting mistakes that there's no reward for. Okay. It must be determined by inborn biological programming. Okay, so to understand complex cognitive behaviors, we measure observable behavior. We make inferences about underlying cognitive activity. And then we consider also what this behavior says about the mind. The development of the computer also contributed to the understanding of the way the mind operated, partially by being a foil to it and partially by being similar to it. So it was different and similar in interesting ways. Just like when you use ChatGPT, it's like, wow, I wish I thought of that. What an idiot. You know, ChatGPT doesn't know anything. So it's that interesting dichotomy that gives us a lot to think about. Okay. Information processing. Okay. Moving on from behaviorism now. Insights, digital computer, operation of the mind occurs in stages. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see what that's about. Okay, attention and flow diagrams built on James's idea of attention. You present message A in the left ear and B in the right. Okay, so you have two messages, but people can still hear the one message, which we do automatically. Okay. So that's Cherry, 1953, looking at attention. Broadbent, flow diagram. What happens when you focus on things? Unattended information does not pass through the filter. If you're not paying attention, you don't hear a word that anyone says, like when you, as we, okay. So first you have to put attention, then the information goes in. So here's a flow diagram from an early computer when they were working it out. So here's Broadbent's filter model of attention. So many messages enter the filter, which selects the message for further processing by a detector and then transfers it to short-term memory. So you get input. So here's the computer and here's the human. In the computer, input processor, memory unit, arithmetic unit, output. In the person, input, filter, detector to memory. Nice. These slides are fantastic. Okay, so here we're looking at the cognitive revolution once more. Tolman, cognitive map. Cherry, attention. Computer. Dartmouth and MIT conferences. Okay, yay, geek out. Skinner, verbal behavior to Chomsky. Okay, critique of Skinner's verbal behavior. Okay, 1957 to 1959. Broadbent, flow diagram. Hitting the 1960s. 1967, NASA, first cognitive psychology book. Yippee. Okay. All right. Artificial intelligence and information. Okay. So this is about, can you make a machine look intelligent so it can fool you so you don't know whether there's an intelligence or not? Okay. So here, what they got very into this, there's lots of old academic history in this. So Newell and Simon created the logic theorist program that could create proofs of mathematical theorems involving logical principles. That's interesting. Okay. Okay, so moving on. So we're looking at modern research now. There's the structural and the process models. Remember, the structural has to do with, okay, we have a green and we have a round and we have a shiny, and we have the same size, we have the same place, and we have above and below, and we have light coming from above, and we have moving toward, I don't actually remember what we have, but there's a lot. Okay. Then we have process models, information coming in, filter, then detection, I can't remember. Memory models. Okay, and we'll come back to that. So no worries that I've already forgotten it. Proving that 60% gets retained and the rest gets forgotten. As according to, what was that one? That graph, it was the savings model, correct or incorrect? Okay, short videos. They're in your PowerPoint. I'm moving on. Okay, rise of behaviorism, information processing model, a processing approach, structural and process models. So those would both fall under the information processing approach. Okay, thank you very much. I hope this was helpful and that it recorded. Okay. See you in the next video.